I'm about to cover when you should actually raise investment as a founder. So, from a founder's perspective, my name is Max Sinclair. I have been through this myself personally. I raised just under £200,000 a few years back for my first startup, Eco Companion. So, it's very personal to me, the painful side to it, like when is wrong to raise investment, which people really don't want to hear. Like, I'm sure if you're a founder, you probably don't like this, what I'm about to say so much. It'll be interesting to hear what you do think. So what it comes down to, product market fit, that's the 3-word summary for this entire video. So realistically, product market fit is you're trying to find a product or service that actually matches up to what the customer's asking for. And really it's a case of, like, when you have an e-commerce store, for example, and you've got your products live, is that people are actually choosing when they turn up at the website to go ahead and purchase. Like, they are resonating with the particular product's problem that they have, and it's solving that for them. So if you've got, like, again, eco lids, my favorite example for these videos, if somebody actually has that problem of trying to, like, keep their food fresh, and they want to do it in a sustainable way, like, are people actually going ahead and purchasing? Or if you have a service and you're trying to sell some kind of SaaS software, for example, people turn up at your homepage, do they sign up, and do they actually pay, and do they stay paying you? So that this is the signs of product market fit, is sales. That's the real hard number. There is other ones like social media followings and all the rest, and app usage, but money is generally the best signal. And my experience of it was Eco Companion was my first business. So I got very good at growth hacking, which is why I now run a marketing agency, actually. But the reality was, my big mistake, when I look back in hindsight, this was about 4 or 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, I guess, was I launched this business. We had one business model when we started, which was more of like a kind of marketplace. And then we moved to more of like a kind of in-between agency type model. And then we ended up as a tour operator, which ended up being actually the correct business model for us. It was actually the most traditional business model that was right, actually. But when I raised investment, we were still on that first business model. And so even though the way I raised investment was because I was so great at social media, I was great at building these huge followings. We had, like, a huge amount of attention on the website. We had tons of great marketing going on. So we had loads of eyeballs, we had PR, I was in the news, all sorts of great stuff happening in the marketing side. But marketing is only half of the equation. So if you don't have product market fit, like we didn't, we had loads of people turning up there, they were making inquiries for trips, but no one was actually purchasing, or at the very least they were purchasing, but we weren't making money out of the purchase. That was the most horrible part to this. So because we didn't have that product market fit, we weren't yet actually in the right place to gain investment. So when I went for investment, unfortunately, I'm a good salesperson as well. So I was able to use our social media following, use this great amount of attention that we're getting, and we were making some small amounts of sales. And I basically managed to convince enough people that we were ready for investment. So we raised £200,000 just under, and that ultimately, though, got us nowhere. So I started to use that money, I increased our costs, we had a decent sized team, and constantly I was like, oh, we can work past this and we can grow our way out of this loss. But the reality is, investment is for scaling, in my opinion. Investment is to take an idea that's already working, generally speaking, and scale it up quicker. There is exceptions to this. There is, like, Facebook and people like that. They don't make money, or they didn't have any business model at the beginning and they were building this huge network. But that is actually the minority. That's a very small minority of types of businesses that makes sense. And in the modern world, realistically, even if you're starting Facebook or something, like, if you can show actual money made earlier on in the journey, then that just it's so much more stable. Otherwise, you will always be chasing more investment as well. Like, let's say you raise 200K today, but you have no business model yet, you're going to just lose money, lose money, lose money. And even if you're growing like hell and your audience is growing, you have to then raise investment again. And so then you're completely dependent on those investors. And so they have huge bargaining power. So if you can be smarter about this, take your time, show a little patience, and bootstrap your business for a little bit longer, then you have the bargaining power. You have the business that is perfectly fine on its own, but with investment, it would grow dramatically quicker. So that's the main lesson here, is build a business that's truly profitable, and then you have the bargaining power. You can keep control of your baby and build it into the vision that you have for it. I wish I'd done that more with Eco Companion. In the end, it wasn't quite the right business for me anyway, but ultimately, if you wait a little bit more patiently, and this is what I'm doing with my current business, Snowball Creations, and being much more patient with it, and I want to have multiple years of like doubling our revenue year on year before I look to raise investment this time, so that then when I go to an investor, I say, well, look, the last 3 years in a row, we've doubled our revenue and we're going to do it again, even if you don't invest. But if you do, we can do X, Y, and Z. That's the argument you want to go in with, and that's the way that you can feel confident in taking that investment and not just wasting it on when you don't yet have product market fit. Hopefully this was helpful. I know it's a painful lesson for people to hear. I didn't listen to it when people told me the first time. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Always happy to hear your feedback. And yeah, there's another video I did about the kind of common mistakes I made as a founder too. I'll link to that too, which I think would be enjoyable for people who might enjoy this video. It's another kind of similar vein. Yeah, and I wish you luck in your startups.